We are now departing from our one-of-a-kind North Conway Railroad Station on rails originally laid back in 1872 by the Portsmouth, Great Falls, and Conway Railroad. The station was designed by Boston architect Nathan G. Bradley with a Victorian and slightly Russian design due to being inspired by a trip to study Russian architecture. When constructed in 1874, it was served as the head offices of the Portsmouth, Great Falls, and Conway Railroad. Eventually, they became part of the Boston Railroad system, and the rail line then became the Conway branch of the Boston, Maine. This station, along with the roundhouse, freight house, and turntable, are listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
Golf carts?
I'd like to give a special welcome aboard to all of you riding down a coach with Mustache Joe's Tours. We appreciate you guys coming to ride with us today.
Look, dude, train golf course built.
For those of you interested in the technical aspects of our train, our locomotive hauling the train is steam locomotive number 7470. Built in the Point St. Charles shops in Montreal, Quebec in 1921 for use on the Grand Trunk Railway, it became Canadian National number 7470 in 1923. The locomotive itself weighs in at 87 tons, and the tender, which carries full and water, weighs 65 tons. The overall combined weight of the engine and tender, fully loaded, is around 150 tons. And the locomotive develops about 36,700 pounds of tractive effort. Now, this is an authentic coal-fired steam locomotive. A coal fire is in a firebox and boiling water into steam pressure, which is used to power the locomotive. And our friend Jordan is up there right now shoveling coal to make sure you guys have a nice trip. I'm one as myself, so he's going to be shoveling about 1 ton of coal this whole round trip. That's a moment of silence for him. Now our coach cars, coaches 1133, 1109, and 1140 were all built by the Standard Steel Car Company back in the early 1920s for commuter service on the Central Railroad in New Jersey, shuttling commuters from the Hudson River to points south in the state of New Jersey. Our open air car, car number 1557, is the second oldest car on our train, built by the Laconia Car Shops in Laconia, New Hampshire in 1910 as an enclosed coach for use on the Boston, Maine. This car saw service in many passenger trips, excursions, and use during the First and Second World Wars, until being sold off to the Maine Central in 1950 for use as a bunker car on maintenance trains. When acquired by the Conway Scenic, the car was rebuilt into the open-air car configuration you see it in today. The dining car Shikorowa was built by Pullman in 1929 for the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad as an electric multiple-unit commuter coach. After many years of service under multiple railroads, the car was eventually acquired by Conway Scenic in 1992. It was christened as the dining car Shikorowa and is its current configuration. And last but definitely not least, our power car, Gertrude Emma, is the oldest car in our fleet. The car was built by Pullman Palace Car Company of Pullman, Illinois in 1898 as a sleeper and observation car for service on the Pennsylvania Railroad's Pennsylvania Limited that ran between New York and Chicago. Fun fact about the Gertrude Emma, she is the oldest Pullman power car still seeing day-to-day service in the entire world at the ripe age of 121 years old.
No. I said
Yeah, well, it's down the track. That's the track, though, that we're riding on. Pretty cool, right? Look at the tree. So big tree.
Looking on the left-hand side of our train, you can see Route 16 as it parallels our tracks through the Conway area. Located here are many fine hotels, motels, restaurants, unique shops, as well as the popular outlet stores. Route 16 is a major thoroughfare throughout Mount Washington Valley, and undoubtedly you've driven on it during your stay.
Oh, a sign, maybe? Maybe a sign. Before everybody had cars, before airplanes were invented, there were only Isn't that crazy? This used to be the main way that people got around. But then they invented planes, and they made cars cheaper. Isn't that crazy? Is that a landfill? That's a landfill. That's where all the trash goes. Yeah, they get the beautiful glass. Whoa, look at the solar panels.
We now are about to make our first river crossing of our trip over the Saco River. The Saco is 136 miles long, finding its headwaters at Saco Lake and Crawford Notch, directly across from where Crawford Notch Depot. It winds its way down through Mount Washington Valley into the state of Maine at Freiburg, and empties into the Atlantic Ocean between the cities of Middleford and Saco. The word Saco is an old Abenaki Indian word meaning to the south or south flowing. The Saco is a popular spot for canoeing, kayaking, fishing, swimming, and a host of other recreational activities, as well as being an important part of the ecological system here in Mount Washington Valley.
At least. No, isn't that
Can't walk
great?
around. Can't walk around. All right, go to daddy.
Yeah. Tell Max what they're doing. River crossing.
Here we go, Booty.
Oh, good thing. I thought we were going in the water. fridge. That is me. Max, go to mom.
Looking back to the right of the train and down the valley, you just might get a glimpse of Mount Washington. Mount Washington is the highest peak east of the Mississippi and north of the Carolinas at 6,288 feet in elevation. Some of the most severe weather on Earth has been recorded here, with the highest ground wind speed ever recorded on Earth at 231 miles per hour in April 1934. The warmest temperature ever recorded in Mount Washington was a mere 72 degrees. However, the coldest was recorded at 47 degrees below zero. Wind chill factors frequently surpass that mark and have been reported as low as 120 degrees below zero. The maximum snowfall ever recorded in one winter was 566 inches. If one wishes to visit the peak of Mount Washington, there are several ways to do so. One way is to drive up the Mount Washington Auto Road on the east slope of the Mount Washington. This can be either exciting or terrifying depending on your driving ability. If you aren't confident enough in your driving skills or don't want your car on top of a mountain, you may want to take one of the vans from the Mount Washington Stage Company and let someone else deal with the driving. Another way to get to the top, and my personal favorite because I'm biased, is the Mount Washington Cog Railway, opened in 1869 as the world's first mountain climbing cog railway. The cog has been steaming up and down the Mount Washington slope for about 150 years. And you have the choice of either taking a train pulled by one of their coal-fired steam locomotives, such as 7470, or take one of their newer biodiesel locomotives. The trip to the top and back usually takes about 3 hours, and is definitely worth trying out. Last option is the hike. However, if you do so, we recommend that you properly prepare and exercise all safety precautions when doing so. We're now passing Hussey's Field on the left-hand side.
Gonna settle down by the railroad track, live the life of Riley in the deep down shack. So when I hear the whistle, I can hear the crack, and watch the train rolling, it's calling the jack. I stop the train on the lickety clack, so take me right back to the track. Jack, choo choo, choo choo, choo boogie, woo woo, woo woo, choo boogie, choo choo, choo choo, choo boogie. Take me right back to the track. Jack.
Sit down.
Just listen to that whistle sing, folks. 7470 is the largest and one of the only operating steam locomotives in the Northeast. This is a rare treat that you guys are getting to have a Central Polar train.
Look at that
hillside of the train, you'll notice two small family cemetery plots, one on each side of the tracks. The one on the left-hand side belongs to the Hale family, while the one on the right-hand side belongs to the Sparhawk family. Both families were early settlers in the Mount Washington Valley, and the dates on the oldest stones head back to the early 1800s. The Hale family were also distant relatives of one of our nation's earliest American heroes, the patriot Nathan Hale. We are now about to pass through the village of Quint, which over 100 ago was a thriving logging village. The trees surrounding the train are second and third growth timber, as this one area was heavily logged, as with many other places in the White Mountains. During the turn of the century, logging was the main industry here, as well as other parts of the Northeast. A sawmill was once located on the right-hand side of the train after the next railroad crossing, and the railroad had a siding that branched out from the main line to service it. As we near this next crossing, notice the brown building immediately on our right before we cross the road. This was originally the Quint Railroad Station, although you wouldn't be able to tell nowadays because long ago it was turned into a private residence.
Yes. Oh, he's got a lot of them.
The village of Quint is as you can see, not much remains of the logging village, as logging eventually faded out as an industry in the White Mountains, eventually coming to a mostly close in the 1930s. Although logging still does happen, it is heavily regulated due to all the regulations nowadays with preserving our forests. Our next railroad crossing is past the Conway Road, named for the famous Abenaki Indian chief, who actually was most famous for helping settle for peace and helping preserve his Native American culture rather than bloodshed against the early English settlers. For those of you with your cell phones out, this next bit's for you, or anyone who's interested about cell phone history, or any phone history. Because during the second half of 1876, Alexander Graham Bell and his assistant attempted the very first long-distance telephone conversation right here over the telegraph wires that used to be along the tracks on our left-hand side. Their first test was not that successful. They were able to hear each other over the wire, although they weren't able to make out every word. The conversation took place from our North Conway station down to Boston, Massachusetts North Station. Even though they weren't able to make every word out, it was actually a very important test that eventually allowed the invention of the telephone to become widely used. Our next river crossing takes us over the Swift River. Although it doesn't always look it, the spring runoff from the Swift lives up to its name and becomes a raging torrent. The Swift River provides drinking water for places as far as Cape Cod and Nantucket through deep underground hydrant channels. It joins the Saco just downstream to the left of our train, just out of sight around the bend. Both the Swift and the Saco rivers are certified floodplains.
That's certified.
Baby,
Now, I mentioned earlier how logging was once a major industry in the area. One of the larger companies in the Conway area back then was the Conway Lumber Company. To fill the demand of timber, lumber companies built and utilized many logging railroads to supply the demand. These were roughly built railroads used to collect timber from the logging camps to bring to the sawmills. And from 1907 to 1916, the Conway Lumber Company operated the Swift River Railroad. This railroad started at the sawmill in Conway, which is now where the Ham skating arena is, right near where we're going to be stopping today. It crossed over our tracks near the freight house where we'll be stopping by, and followed along the Swift River for about 10 miles to a logging camp in Paso Conway. Years after the railroad stopped running, the Kankamangas Highway, the famous scenic byway, actually was built on mesh of the old roadbed of the Swift River Railroad. Here's a fun fact about the logging operations of the area. The Boss Man Railroad freight crews that worked this Conway branch were often nicknamed bark peelers due to the high quantity of timber that was shipped over this line. This name stuck far after the logging era, and it stuck even to the very last freight train around in 1972, 2 years before Conway Scenic's founded. We're now passing through the athletic fields of Kennett Middle School. Until just a couple of years ago, these fields were the domain of the Kennett High School teams, and many tournament games were played here. After the school district built a new high school in Redstone, this school and its fields became part of the middle school for the 7th and 8th graders. If you look off to the right, you might see an orange sock and a small little RC airstrip. That's home of the local club for model airplane enthusiasts, and on weekends you might see 5 to 10 planes flying in the sky at any one time.
Soccer field. Baseball diamond.
There's gonna be a certain party at the station. I used to call Funny Baby. She's gonna drive. Tell her that I'll never roll.
Go to man. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, she's had mine.
We're now pulling into the siding beside the old Conway Freight House, and we're also crossing over Route 16. We'll be stopping momentarily to perform what is called a runaround. This is an operation where we take our locomotive, we break it off what is right now in front of our train, we will run it on a track adjacent to the siding we're on, and we'll take it onto the other side of our train and hook it on to the other end. And then we got to perform our test. And you guys are all welcome to get off at a spot that's been opened by crew members before you get off and observe the runaround. If you'd like to do this, get off only where someone is open for you. Take a left as you exit the train and walk down towards by Power Guard Gertrude Emma with this 7470 hour glory hooking onto our train. This is also a great time when we come to a complete stop, if you so choose to stay on board. Go to our snack bar in car 1133 in coach class.
See it?
And also, for those of you still staying on board, or even if you get off, this is a great time for you to switch sides of the train so that you get the other side's view on the way back as we're going back on the same tracks.
Oh, you got a good picture of this while you're there. Over it goes. He walks the tracks up and down. Who's coming?
Get some pictures.